What we're seeing right now is a time in which we thought wouldn't happen, but yet here we are. Inflation has taken off, and people are expecting that the government's going to come in and support them. They're expecting that the quantitative easing is going to be there so that they can have a return to what their 401k was, their retirement account was before this all began. Now, I think what's important for this entire video, if you get one thing, it's that you're going to pay more for everything and you're going to get less at the end. That's products and services. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go. Here we have it. A quarter of Americans are at risk of winter power blackouts and grid emergencies. This is serious, my friends. Look at it. Grids from New England to Texas could see supply shortages. Natural gas, coal, and fuel oil supplies are all strained. Now, I didn't say that it would be a discounted price so you could expect it to be a little worse. You're paying more than ever before, and the chances that this could be cut off from you is becoming more real every day. Large swaths of North America are at risk of blackouts and other energy emergencies during extreme cold conditions this winter, along with the potential disruptions of power plant fuels. It just shows you that we are highly dependent on this system, and yet we cannot actually come to terms with the fact that, well, we're really not prepared. We really don't have our stuff in order. And that goes on an individual level, a community level, as well as your city and of course your country. It just shows us how clear that really is. And so there's more in here talking about the particulars, but I think it's important for you to get yourself in order. At least do a few things, whatever the case may be. I talk about it all the time. If you want to have your food situation prepared, yeah, it would be great to have a greenhouse and have 1,000 plants in there and everything. That would be fantastic. But what if you just had a bunch of extra rice and beans around so that you could eat if stuff is in a shortage? I mean, it's just kind of a no-brainer. The sufficiently restrictive zone, policy rates, and Taylor rules recommendations. Okay, so this is basically from the St. Louis Fed, and the reason that I bring this up is this is James Bullard, okay? So very vocal guy. He came out and basically said through this report, he said that what we need is for the Fed funds rate to be at least 5% and potentially as high as 7%. Now, the Taylor rule is essentially telling us because of where inflation is, this is where the Fed funds rate should be. Okay, that's kind of what it is. And based on that, it's suggesting 5 to 7%. So I'm hearing the number of 5% over and over again. And it looks like that could be the case. So that's approximately 1% higher than where we are today. It's not that many increases, okay? And then they would stop after that. So we would get that in the first quarter of 2023. You see, all throughout this period, you are addicted to the cheap money, to the cheap debt, and now they increase the interest rates. Imagine at 5% Fed funds rate, what mortgages look like. They're going to be more than what people are used to have paid. Credit Suisse sale of securitized products will not correct the deeper cultural problems reminiscent of the 2008 meltdown. This is one company, Credit Suisse, that it got involved in just so many different things. Archegos and all these other things that happened after that. And this is one of many companies, but the point is they're trying to chop the company up and sell the garbage here and there as if that's going to resolve it. They did the same thing in Europe in general, where they took all the bad debt and they created this EFSF. I think it was the European Financial Stability Fund, something like this. And then they said, okay, well, we basically created an instrument and then that'll fix it. And then not too long after, they created the ESM, M for mechanism. And it's not a mechanism at all. It's nothing. It's just debt repackaged up. This isn't good, my friends who are watching. Look at what happened with FTX. Okay? How were they valued? I think it was like 38 billion. 38 billion was it? Somewhere around there. And how were they valued at that? How were people giving millions and millions? Well, first of all, the company didn't have 38 billion. The company didn't even raise 38 billion. That's the valuation of the company. And they manage that by using like your earnings multiples and so on. What they didn't know was how much the company was actually earning. And unfortunately, they were really, really cash poor, it seemed. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy says layoffs will continue into next year. So you probably heard this already. They got getting rid of 10,000 employees. I wanted to put it into perspective though. Layoffs reach Amazon after years of unabashed growth. Now I want to note the fact that, okay, 2019 they were at 800,000 employees. The next year they're at 1.3 million. That's a huge jump. And they didn't just get rid of the people after, 6 months down the road when the stock stopped performing extremely well. They hired in the next year 1.6 million. And then they fired, what looks like now 1.544. So I just want to give you that because, you're going to hear about it in the media and they're going to say, hey, they're firing 10,000 people, they're bad. And maybe they didn't need to fire 10,000 people. I can tell you as a seller, they're increasing fees left, right, and center right now. Okay? We're getting charged, they make an excuse always. They do this every year anyway. But they make an excuse. What happens though? Well, the seller increases the price that the customer will pay. So the customer always loses. UK Finance Minister announces tax hikes and spending cuts, says country is in a recession. Can you believe it? You actually have a finance minister that's admitting that the country is in a recession? I didn't think it was possible, but here we are. That's the UK. I got more info on that. Today we deliver a plan to tackle the cost of living crisis and rebuild our economy. We also protect the vulnerable because to be British is to be compassionate, and this is a compassionate conservative government. And essentially what they say here is that they're going to increase taxation and they're going to make sure that everybody's taken care of. But of course, when you increase taxation, what we find is usually the middle class ends up paying the bill. That's the way it goes. So that's for the UK. Buried in the latest forecast for the UK's economy is how much the government needs to pay the Bank of England for losses on bond holdings, the equivalent of $157 billion. Does this sort of make it feel like, what did he say? The hefty sum stems from a deal struck a decade ago that meant the government benefited from any gains on bonds bought by the Bank of England under its quantitative easing program. Okay, so if they're doing well then everything's great. But they also need to cover the future losses. Why does this even exist? That's my question to you. You gotta have to think about that for a second. You're having this institution that's sitting there outside of your own government, and they're printing this money at their own will, increasing interest rates, decreasing interest rates. You don't get to decide what happens. You don't get to elect these people. And now you're taking a loss because of them? I mean, it's just, this doesn't need to exist. But that's where we are. That's the UK. Fed's Bullard says rate hikes have had only limited effects on inflation so far. Of course, and this is part of that whole report from earlier, but I just wanted to show you this because it is in fact the case. Now, that might take some time to come through. We know that it doesn't happen overnight. However, you could just see it for yourself right here, and it makes it very clear that where they're at now, it can't just, okay, we'll get the 5% and we'll start dropping it. No, you can't do that because then inflation will pick up again. Average 401k balances plunged 23% year over year due to market volatility. So if somebody was anticipating retiring as a result of the amount that they had in the retirement account, and now suddenly it's down by 23%. What are they going to do? Are they going to be able to retire? Or maybe they're going to say, you know what, I got to stay another year. Then they get in, maybe they get sick, maybe they they just can't keep up, all these different things. So we're always pushed to the edge, even in retirement. So I would say to people out there to just have more than what you need, if that at all possible. All right, now we'll talk about the next aspect here. Target blames criminal networks for up to $600 million in lost profits. So they get these huge swarms of people, they run into the store, they take everything, and they leave, and there's no prosecution. You could see that, I don't know if you could look at it there, that's toothpaste under lock and key. Toothpaste. I've never seen that before, and I mean, just thinking about it is just a shocker to me. Workers at more than 100 Starbucks stores say that they're going on strike. So they're going to strike, and this will be not just at Starbucks. They're going to get it at all these different places. They're going to strike. They want to unionize. They want more pay. They have their demands. I would just say that something is coming, and it looks a lot like this. Meet your new corporate office mate, a brainless robot. So this is essentially just saying that no longer do you need to employ a person. If you want to go get a coffee, you just simply send an order and the robot will bring it to you. You don't have to get up from your desk. In fact, I assume when these robots exist, it would be frowned upon because then you would go and chit chat. So you sit at your desk and you work. You don't go get coffee. You don't go to the water cooler. The robot makes sure that you stay at your desk. Robots are coming to take the jobs. I think it is very clear. And this is for a lot of different spaces. It's not just for, going to grab the coffee. It's not just for baristas, but in every single category. I'm seeing this all over the place. And so it just shows us that things can change rapidly and that we must be prepared. That means we have to get our skills in order today. What type of skills do you have today that could be monetized? What skills do you think are valuable but you don't have? How can you get those? Can you look that stuff up online? Can you take courses online? Can you find some sort of internship, some mentorship? Anything that you can do, I believe now is the right time. Do not delay on this. We're going to pay more and we're going to get less. If that's the equation we have in front of us, what are you going to do? You can let me know down below and we can have a conversation about that. And of course, I always enjoy reading your comments. If you found this video valuable, hit that subscribe down below. I'll see you tomorrow.